So I've been making these simple pleated filter masks for people to wear when they're outside and want to avoid the coronavirus, or for healthcare providers, first responders, etc. We're donating them through a group here in my town to people who request them. And it's a pretty simple design, easy to do, except for the pleats. I was having trouble getting those done uniformly in a regular way and doing it with a reasonable amount of speed. It took me a long time. I'd have to pin them or try to press them into place while holding them. It was very tedious. So I came up with a simple little cardboard tool which has 3 flaps on top, 3 flaps on bottom, and makes it very easy to turn one of these into one of these. And in this video, I'll show you how to make one and how to use it. Here are the materials you're going to need. You'll need, or it'll help if you print out the template images that I have. I'll link them in the description. And be careful when you print them. When I printed this from a browser, web browser, I just could not get it to scale at 100%. This should be 6 3/4 inches wide, all the pieces. And in the browser, I could never get it to print out at 100%, but I downloaded them, opened them up in the Mac preview application, and they printed fine from there when I said to scale it at 100%. So just make sure that's 6 3/4. If it isn't, you'll have to go the extra step of drawing things and being very careful to keep everything at sharp right angles, because if two things get just a little bit cockeyed, then when you fold them up, everything gets cattywampus. So having things square is important. You'll need some thin cardboard. I find that a 12-pack case of cans works well. IPA, of course, is the best choice, but pretty much any can will do. You could use a soda can, 12-pack. A straight edge for cutting, a good sharp knife or X-Acto for cutting. Might need this, we'll see. I have a awl that I use. I'll be using to mark some points on there perhaps, or I might use this, we'll see as I go. Some tape, and that's just to hold the template in place while I'm marking. And then for actually taping the joints, I find that packing tape works very well. It's strong, holds on to the cardboard very well, and it can take a lot of folding back and forth without falling apart. So those are the pieces. Okay, I have quickly just trimmed off roughly, without measuring anything, all the folded flaps from the boxes. So I've got 2 rectangles, a little bit smaller than my pages. And what I will do now is quickly just trim this on the lines. And again, make sure that you've got this printed out at a right scale. It should be 6 3/4 inches wide. And then I will just quickly tack this in place with a little bit of tape. It doesn't have to be square to the edges, as long as it's all on pretty undamaged parts of the cardboard. And then I will repeat. Well, first I will cut the pieces here that will be the 3 flaps that will be folding in. This is the back plate. Everything attaches to that. These are the bottom flaps, and and these are the top flaps, which are larger. So I'll start by cutting almost, but not quite, all the way to the edge of the template here on the darker lines. These shorter lines that don't go to the edge are just to indicate that when these pieces fold in, that's roughly where they should hit. Kind of a check to see if you got it going together right. All right, so not quite to the edge. And this one. This one again, be very careful that you're getting right on the line and not getting it cockeyed, because that will mess up your pleats. All right, so those are basically ready to separate once we get the whole thing trimmed out. Next, I will cut the outside sides. And finally, just trim off. Okay. Those pieces are done. Now I'll just repeat the process with this one. All right, I've got this one all ready to cut, and I'm sort of figuring this out as I go here, and I just realized it will be a little less error prone if I use more tape and put a piece on each of the flaps on the sides here, as well as a little more on the top and bottom. And then I can cut this entire line in one go, not going all the way to the outside edge of the cardboard, but cutting all the way across the template piece. With the extra pieces of tape, those will stay put while I then trim off the ends. This time, not the sides first. There are all the pieces. This first to fold in on for the bottom is going to go flipped over like this. Just tack this down. So it doesn't move around on me. Here's the tricky part. Get it kind of centered on the fold. And it likes to grab before you're ready. So getting it on the bottom piece first, or the flap first. Lining it up, pressing it tight. And then working it down. Okay. Trim off the excess. Next, the middle flap, which is labeled third to fold in. We're going to fold this up and let me get a scrap, two roughly equivalent pieces here. All right. So all this does is when we fold this flap up, we can put this underneath so that it will raise the next one up so that it's level with that folded up flap. And again, put it in face down here. Tack this in place up here, just a little bit, holding it, not very firmly held. Nothing's underneath anything. I've got it lined up with the edges. It's tight against there. And okay, that's the second flap. Now we repeat that process. Take this little tack piece off, fold that up, tack that in place, put a second shim underneath here so that the next flap will be at the same level as that. This is the one labeled fifth to fold in. All right, that's the bottom flaps. Now, we'll spin it around. And do the same thing here. So we've got the second to fold in. This is the first. Second will fold down, overlapping it a bit. Then the third, fourth will fold down, overlapping that a bit. Then the fifth, and then the last and sixth one folds down. So, whereas these ones are getting larger with each fold, because they're moving up the pleats, These ones will start out large and then get smaller as they go. So we start with a large one, second to fold in, flip it over, put a shim underneath, middle tuck, fourth to fold in, flip it over, see how that's getting shorter. Second shim, and the last bottom flap. Gotta change that. Oop. Spacing out. Almost finished. So that is our tool, but to finish it off so that things don't move on us, we're gonna wrap folded edges with more packing tape on the outside. Just wrapping that over tight. Trim off the excess. On one side. All right, there's our tool. Let's label it a bit. All right, there's the finished tool. At the top, the bottom, you take your mask, you put it in with the outside surface up, because this will become the side that would normally face out with the pleats folding downward. Get the bottom of the mask aligned with the bottom edge of this, leaving roughly equal amounts on the side here, because you're going to be sewing up the side while the whole thing is being held in the tool. Fold it up, trying to keep the mask from moving. So there's the first flat. Fold this down, get those creased a little bit. Fold in the second flat. You'll see it overlaps just a bit. Fold this up, making sure that the pleats are creasing nicely. Fold up the third one. Fold this down, pressing the folds into place. Fourth one. Fold it up. Fifth. Sometimes they won't quite fold neatly. And sixth. And there it is, ready to sew. You don't need to pin it. Just kind of hold it in place while you take it over to the machine. All right, here it is in the tool, ready to sew. I usually start on the right side of it as you're looking at it here. And get it more or less at the edge of the foot, edge of the mask. I often have to feed these in with the awl to get it to move neatly through. Then, once you've got that sewn, just turn it around. This side is a little trickier to do because you're going against the pleats here, and they tend to want the foot, if you're not careful, will tend to ride underneath them. So this comes very much in handy at this point. So here's the finished piece, all sewn, and it just pops right out. And there you see nice regular pleats, pretty much the same on each side, each piece. Pretty simple.